Hello, how are you doing? Um, Welcome to the first episode of my new podcast, which I've decided to call Into the Belly of the Kaiju. What do you think? So, my first episode is an interview with a Taiwanese retired screenwriter, Ting Cheng. We talk a lot about Taiwanese culture, screenwriting, and a lot about just how crazy the Taiwanese soap writing industry is. So yeah, this is going to be the first of 5 episodes, and then I'll see how it goes, and maybe I'll do some more after that. So, uh, without further ado, please come with me into the belly of the kaiju. Let's go. Abby told me you're working as a teacher right now.
Yes, actually, I'm teaching primary school kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I think Chinese parents want their kids to learn English as early as possible. So probably that's the reason why I can get a
Oh,
job.
wow. Are you teaching English in a primary school, elementary school?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So actually, it can be challenging because some of the kids just don't understand me perfectly.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand me, so they resist learning English. But
Yeah.
somehow, if you see from a linguistic acquisition perspective, maybe it's not a wonderful idea to learn English at such a young age.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, they've got no use for it. It's not like they're going to use it in their daily life, right?
Um, they will, but probably not right now
Yeah.
because English
Yeah.
is not our official language. Like we're in Taiwan, we're not in Singapore, right? Like
Yeah.
mostly people converse in Mandarin Chinese or
Yeah.
Taiwanese or Hakka, some local dialects,
What's
and
Hakka?
they have not. Yeah, Hakka is another local dialect, which is, I would say that's very similar to Taiwanese and
Okay.
Cantonese, something like that.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, because we have so many ethnicities, even though we share the same written language, but we speak
Yeah.
very differently. So it's
Okay.
interesting, even if we don't understand each other, we can always understand by writing down words, right? Because it's the same character with
Hmm.
different pronunciations. So it's kind of crazy sometimes.
So living in Taiwan, you'll meet people who don't speak like Mandarin Chinese, and you have to communicate with them like in different ways. Is
Not
that regular?
anymore, but
No.
maybe decades ago, yes, but
Yeah.
not anymore because most people have received education, right? So,
Yeah.
but I think maybe decades ago, yes. Some aboriginals in the mountains could only speak their own language and Japanese because we were used to colonized by Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that still happened, but years ago, probably not right now. But some old people probably don't speak Mandarin. Very, very old people still,
Really?
they don't. Maybe in their 80s or 90s.
You
Some
speak
of them
Japanese?
they speak Taiwanese. Yeah,
Oh,
they probably can
Taiwanese. Okay.
understand. They probably can understand Mandarin Chinese by
Mm.
listening to it, but
Mm.
they cannot articulate Mandarin Chinese at all.
Yeah.
But we share the same written language. So this is the crazy part. I mean, it's kind of interesting. So we have basically the same grammatical systems because we share the
Oh,
same
okay.
written forms, right? Yeah. So
Okay.
it's not.
Okay.
It's kind of similar to the idea of like the difference between Mandarin and Cantonese.
Mm.
It's kind of like the difference between Italian and Spanish, I guess.
Okay.
So yeah, so
So
probably that's
very
it.
very similar grammar and
Yeah,
like
almost
similar
exactly the
sounding
same.
words, is it?
Yeah, but just the different way to sound the words, but we use the same written language. Yeah, it's crazy, huh?
Yeah, I guess in the UK you never run into anyone who doesn't speak English.
Yeah. So that's it. So now I'm teaching English in a primary school in Taipei, the capital.
What What kind of things do they learn? Is it just like ABCs, like apple, ball, whatever, singing
Something like
songs?
that, like some grammar stuff for grade 5 students. Like they have to learn like whose book is this,
Okay.
whose book is this, or whose shoes are they need to tell the difference. We don't have the idea of singular and plural in our language.
Yeah.
So it can be really difficult for them. Yeah. So this is it. Yeah, because we have characters and English is alphabetical, so it's totally different ideas.
Yeah. But you use pinyin, right? Pinyin.
No, we use 注音, but pinyin is like it's a long history to talk about. You know what? It's like so because we're different from mainland China, right? So they use pinyin and we use 注音. So but we use different. We use different, we're different forms to transcribe the words, right? So, but it's actually the same thing. you
and it's a kind of alphabet used for typing, is that right?
Yeah, we use different alphabets to create the same characters when we're doing the typing on the computers. Yeah.
When I look at like Learn Chinese textbooks and things like that, it uses Roman alphabet.
Yeah.
Is that common in Taiwan and China, or do you just learn it straight into the kanji, straight into the characters?
No, I think you only learn pinyin in China, but in Taiwan we have a different system.
Okay.
That's crazy, but we use different system to transcribe the same language. So this is crazy. Still another crazy thing.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like because we use 注音 and they use pinyin, and we don't want to be identical. That's the reason why we create our own, different systems. I think that's the idea. That's the ideology. Like,
you want to be separate to China.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of that kind of ideology in Taiwan? Like we want to make ourselves perceived as different?
Yeah, of course. Like we got democracy, right? And then like something that you'd love to talk about, like gay marriage is legal in Taiwan, which is very different from what's happening in China. I think still for them that they don't. I mean, for the LGBT community in China, can't really voice themselves in the public or online.
Can you be like openly gay in China?
You can, but I think you get stigmatized.
Yeah.
But in Taiwan,
I guess you can't get married.
Yeah, no, you can't get married in China as a gay man or as a lesbian. No, you can't.
Yeah.
So even though we share probably very similar cultures, but like we're basically very different. Right?
Yeah.
So this is the thing. And so today we'd love to talk about some of that, right? Whether it's about like dramatic writing or gay life in Taiwan. Is that Joe?
Yeah.
You'll talk about some of that, right? I guess.
Well, my first question I wrote down for you was I'd like you to tell me how you met your husband, because Abby told me a little bit about that, and it's quite an interesting story.
Yeah. I think I met him during the Gay Pride in 2010. Oh, that was almost, 11 years ago. So I saw a very handsome guy with long hair. And I was staring at him. He was staring at me. So I think, we probably had some chemistry. But I didn't dare to, ask for his number. So.
Sorry, and this was like a Pride rally or a march or something like that?
Yeah, it's like a march. Gay Pride is like a march, right? But like I think I volunteer for the local LGBT friendly NGO. I think he also volunteered for the same NGO, but because the scale of the parade was huge, right? So I didn't get to know every volunteer. So he was also one of the volunteers.
Oh, okay,
like me.
okay. Like you saw him around a few times.
I think we didn't belong to the same group, but anyway. So then I didn't get his number, so I tried to look for him online, because I think back then we had this called a bulletin board, something like that. So like a forum, you can leave messages or send you a message, private messages to to find someone, or to ask for some help, or just to get together for the gay community. So I got online and tried to find him. And of course, some people I met online was really, were really friendly, and they told me, oh, according to your description, it must be Ethan. So, Ethan.
Well, I guess you didn't have a picture, right?
No, I didn't, because
just describing that long
we didn't have smartphones back then.
Okay, yeah. This is 2010. Yeah.
It was like 2010. Come on. So, so I didn't take a photo of him or anything like that. So, and then I got his Facebook account. I added him as a friend. Then I checked his photos.
Have you told me you're working as a teacher right now?
I told myself, he didn't look like the guy I was looking for. I was like, but he was still handsome. So we set up a date, and then I met him, and I realized, well, I was introduced to the wrong guy. So, but the wrong guy turned out to be the right guy. So then, so it was meant to be, huh? So what a story. So I think I probably met him accidentally. Yeah. So that's really funny.
And you ended up marrying this guy.
Yeah, I ended up marrying him. Can you imagine? And I couldn't believe I could. Actually, I still couldn't believe that I married him, because I didn't realize. I mean, still, we're living in Asia, right? We still are, pretty conservative in so many different ways. Yeah. And I think we're blessed to get married as a gay man in Taiwan. And I think it's the first Asian country that legalized the same-sex marriage. So I feel very lucky, in that sense, But
you got married in the States, right?
I got married in the States in 2016, 2016, right? And that, because that was just a ceremony to celebrate our relationship. So it was just something we believe it was memorial, It's like,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
But we got married legally in Taiwan in 2019. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. So I think that's the reason why, because that's really because I think gay marriage was legalized on 24th of May, 2019. So I think we got married in June 2019. So that's the reason why. Yeah.
That's happy birthday, I think.
Finally we can, finally we could get some legal protection. I was like, cool. So that's our story.
That's a nice story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that guy, the right guy, the wrong guy is still out there somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe, it should be filmed as a very nice romantic gay movie, I suppose.
Well, if it was a movie, you would also meet the original guy, and then it'd be like a love triangle, which guy do I choose?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think I still feel very lucky to have my husband with me. Yeah.
It's a lovely story.
Yeah, thank you.
So I wanted to ask you about screenwriting as well.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you wrote for a Taiwanese drama for a while.
Yes.
All right.
For a few years. Yes, I did.
And in the UK, we have like soap operas, which are released like 3 or 4 times a week, and they are written, I think, like months in advance, something like 6 months. There's a lot of planning in them. But Abby was telling me Taiwanese dramas are a little bit different. Can you tell me
Yes.
how they're written?
Uh, like, for some reasons, I think in Taiwan, we have very tight schedules.
Mm.
So, for example, back then, when I was writing the episode 20, right?
Mm.
The crew was filming, episode 18 already.
Okay.
So that was horrible.
And
Like,
they film what, every day, 5 days a week, something like that?
yeah, some of the dramas are still aired
Yeah.
5 days a week, and so it's like so we have so many of them. That's the reason why you have to keep working on them, and the
And like
reason
1 hour
why
long, right?
more than that, 90-minute long sometimes, from
Okay.
7 to 9:30 at
Okay.
night. Yeah, and so this is the time that most people watch TV. But nowadays, like for us, like we young people, right? We
Mm.
prefer to watch shows or dramas or
Yeah.
movies on Netflix or Hulu, I don't know, or HBO Home, whatever, Max,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
For the senior audience, they still love watching TV because they're so used to it, right?
Mm.
They're so used to TV sets, right? So, I think those TV dramas are created for older generations in general. Yeah, so that's the reason why it's quite long and cheesy and dramatic, and somehow it can be a little bit crazy because they want to have more audience, so they ask the script writers to write the scripts maybe just 2 days or 1 day before they start to film, so they can put on some here and now elements to go with the trend, like so you can see so let's say there's a COVID outbreak in one of the southern cities of Taiwan, and so that will be included. Your producer will call you and say, hey, you're writing episode 341, right? Okay, you have to change some elements because we need the COVID outbreak in your story. I know we only have 3 hours to film, but you have to do it right now. Go ahead. So that's the reason why it's scary and it's very stressful.
Yeah.
So
that's insane.
Sorry?
That's insane to have to write it like 2 days in advance.
Yeah. So, but you know what? Those TV dramas, we call them 8点档, which means 8 o'clock dramas. Sorry, I need to correct myself. The dramas usually last from 8 o'clock to 9:30, not 7 to 9:30. Sorry, 8 to 9:30. So that's 90 minutes, right? So the so-called, we call it 8点档, which means 8 o'clock dramas are mainly created for, as I told you, seniors, and they need to create a lot of repetitions in those dramas to remind the seniors of certain storylines and plots, because usually it's 90 minutes and 5 days a week, so they got so many characters. So they need to explain an event from so many different perspectives so that the audience will not forget. So there's so many repetitions. The rhythm is very slow. I think they create not only just dramatic purpose, but also psychological purpose, because some of the senior audience, are very lonely. So
Yeah.
one of my acquaintances told me that, oh, my mom talked to the, female actors in the TV drama. like because maybe his mom didn't have someone to stay with her, so she had to talk to someone. So she talked to the characters in the TV dramas. That's crazy, huh? But that's kind of interesting, I would say. Yeah.
And how would you write to a lonely audience? What kind of thing do you have to think about for that?
Basically, for the senior audience, they love in-law issues.
Okay.
The mother-in-law doesn't like her daughter-in-law, so that's something quite popular.
Okay.
Yeah, or something like, what? She's not my daughter, and you are my daughter. So the mystery of who is your real bio mother, something like that. Very cheesy and cliche. And what else? Let me think. It's more about. Is this a very famous TV drama called Dynasty?
Oh yeah.
Something like that, right? Daddy's newlywed wife wants to take over the whole company, and
it's a whole like company drama is like a genre, right? In Taiwan. I was watching a show. I don't know what it's called in Chinese, but it was like a romance about a girl who she's a romance writer, and she falls into a coma and has she's living in another world where she's in a romance novel and she's in love with like a CEO. And it's quite good kind of, I don't know, sci-fi, but there's some good romance in there as well. But there was this whole like, I say 30% of the show was like a business drama. And like for me, like I have no interest in that. And like I was talking to Abby about it. She said like that's kind of a thing in Taiwanese drama. Like it's a genre, like business.
And for
like
the 8 o'clock dramas, we also have something probably maybe a decade ago or more than a decade ago. We call it idol drama, 偶像剧. So actors in idol dramas are either handsome nor beautiful, but they probably don't know how to act. So
really?
A very Cinderella-like story. Young CEO falls in love with a poor but sweet but too kind girl. Something like that. So that was popular as well. Yeah.
Apparently in Japan, someone said a big criticism of Japanese drama is that they just want beautiful actors. So they don't necessarily get the best acting talent. They just go for whoever looks nice.
Yeah, they don't need the best actors. They just want the best faces, right? So this is a thing.
How did it feel for you? So you'd write an episode, and then maybe 3 or 4 days later, you'd see it on TV.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right?
So I guess you wouldn't have time to rewrite or do many edits. Like, how did it feel watching your episode? Did you ever feel like
the things that we still need to do? Yeah, the things that we still needed to do the revisions. Yeah, that's the reason why I didn't have time to sleep. I think back then was like I had an ongoing meeting with my producer on Skype from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. for 12 hours. Just like I just like it was because we needed to do revision in such a short period of time.
So would you write it during the meeting? Would you be writing the scripts as you? Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah. So it was really difficult actually. So I didn't think like back then I didn't enjoy doing dramatic writings for TV stations at all. No, not at all. Because it was just stressful. I was burned out, basically. I was
Yeah.
like, no, I couldn't lead a normal and happy life as a scriptwriter. But I think things are changing bits by bits right now. But back then it was horrible.
With that way of writing something, I can't imagine they'd be able to do it any other way except for just hiring a lot more writers, and I don't know.
Yeah, it was really bad. But
It reminds me of
it seems that in the UK, like, you have the luxury to, create the plots and design the characters, more freely, and you have more time. Is that true?
I spoke to someone who wrote for soaps, as we call them,
like
weekly dramas. Yeah, and they I think they write it about 6 months in advance, and you have to. I think if you write, I think they release it in seasons. They don't call it seasons because it's just ongoing and there's no gap. But I think if you're writing like an episode in July or something like that, you have to read like, or you have to be familiar with the show. So I guess you have to watch it as well. But you have to read like the previous 20 or 50 or something episodes just to know, like, just to be up to date with all the characters and know all the storylines and like that, everything like that. It pays quite well, so you could probably write 1 or 2 a year, and like you'd have enough money to survive. But yeah, it's nothing like what it sounds like in Taiwan. They plan it months in advance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they would react to stuff like the coronavirus. I imagine when that happened, it's like emergency meetings and rewrites, and like, because you can't have this thing going on TV and like not addressing it. That would be really weird.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. And they never talk about news or current affairs or anything like that, really. So
no, they didn't.
The only thing I can compare it with is, do you know South Park?
Oh yeah, South Park. Oh my god.
So there's a good documentary about that called 6 Days to Film or 6 Days to Shoot. I can't remember what it's called. But it's like they write episodes similar to Taiwan. They'll take some news thing often or something topical, and they'll have like 6 weeks to write it. So 6 days to produce an episode. So they have like 1 or 2 days to write it, or 3 days to write it, or something like that, and then it goes off to be animated, and they do
yeah.
Which is why they can do such topical things and like react to like news and current events and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't date very well. If you look at like a South Park from like 5 or 10 years ago, and it's talking about some random news event, it's like, I don't really remember that. I don't know. Like, at the time, it's really funny, but I think the best episodes are like just random things that aren't about like news topics and things like that.
Yeah. So it's because they just need to cram the current events into the animation, right? So maybe they're not all about major events, I suppose. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I studied screenwriting at university.
Yeah.
And most of what they teach you is like the structure of a screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they can't really teach many other things. I think structure is the easiest thing to kind of explain. Did you study at university?
Well, I actually studied English. Like, I majored in English when I was in college, and I only studied dramas written by maybe Tennessee Williams, or Shakespeare.
Yeah. Okay.
Or Arthur Miller, those masters.
Yeah.
So I didn't really learn how to write, TV series or dramas or movie scripts. No. But I met a very nice teacher, so we started something like apprenticeship. And she was a pro.
Okay.
That's the reason why that's how I learned to, write TV dramas, and how I got connected with the industry.
And how did she teach you?
Basically, just like we talk about the structure, the same thing. I think it's the same idea all around the world.
Okay.
The first of all, we need to create the background stories of the characters, right? Like how old is he? What are his hobbies? Tell us more about his family. So it's the same thing, structures, and then we just write the synopsis of the stories, and then we need to write the synopsis of each scene.
Yeah.
Then we write the dialogues. So it's like just step by step. So it can be complicated, and somehow the structure, I think, is the hardest.
Yeah.
Because you really have to know a direction and what's going to happen next. But I think as a playwright, you don't have to do that. You just let the story grow. But as a TV drama writer, no, you really have to, work on the structure, because you want to give surprises and hints, halfway through, right, for your audience. But it just, I don't think somehow TV scripts can grow organically, because we need to create certain plots to surprise or sadden the audience. So I think that's the most difficult part. Yeah.
It's very, if you look at American TV traditionally, there's like 4 or 3 ad breaks. Yeah.
Maybe three or four advertisement breaks.
So you have to structure the episode like something's exciting's got to happen here, like just before the advert. So like people don't turn off, and like it's very structured around this kind of 4-act structure.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to do the same techniques in Taiwanese drama? Like,
yeah, I think so. I think we basically learn everything from the Western TV, industry. So basically, I think it's the same thing. I think the same skills. Just like we add a lot of local elements, right? For us, for us, in-law, as I just told you, in-law is a big thing, right? Or the pressure from our parents, the expectation from our parents is a big thing. So I think of course we have some different cultural variants, but the same techniques are pretty similar to one another.
The structure is very similar, is that right?
Yeah, it's actually the same, because we always talk about Hollywood movies or Korean TV dramas. K-pop is very big in Taiwan, so that's the reason why. And also J-pop. So we learn a lot from Japanese TV dramas and Korean TV dramas, and of course, just like American TV dramas. Yeah, and now I think we're doing better and better thanks to Netflix. Because of the Netflix. Because I think because of Netflix or those streaming platforms, we get more chances to explore different genres. So I think compared to China, they've got too much censorship. In Taiwan, on the other hand, we're embracing diversity. So that's the reason why I think we're lucky in that way. Of course, but in China, like you've got so much money to put on a good show or put on a good TV drama. But in Taiwan, like our hands are tied, the money's tight. So, but still, because we have more freedom, so we can still create good things.
Yeah, you don't see much Chinese culture. You don't see much Chinese media like outside of China, I guess. Like Korean, Japanese, like dramas are somewhat popular in the West, I think.
Yes.
Taiwan has probably a little bit more cultural exports than China. But
Yeah.
China has like I've never watched any like. I guess apart from like Hong Kong movies, that was a thing, wasn't it? Like, especially in the 90s, it was quite big, wasn't it?
Actually,
yeah.
I think one great thing about Netflix is
it allows the structure to be much more free and almost more novelistic. Like you do have more. You also have the kind of exciting elements at the end of episodes just to kind of get you to the next one. But there's not necessarily like it doesn't have to be a certain length of time. You don't have to structure it around ad breaks. So watching, what was it, Squid Game? Did you see Squid Game?
Not yet because I'm very, I don't know, I'm kind of scared of watching, Squid Games.
It's very,
a lot
very...
of blood in Squid Games, right? I know, but it's good, I suppose, right?
Yeah, it's quite violent and it's very, very tense. Like if I were to wear like a heart, like a sports watch and watch my heart rate, I'm sure it'd be like going crazy as I was watching it.
Like you're on a roller coaster, huh?
Exactly, yeah. But what I loved about that show is not necessarily what I loved about it, but one of the things that made it great was that it didn't have to follow like a weekly episode structure. It didn't have to have like a particular structure for, like I was saying before, ad breaks and like it was so. I don't know, Netflix, I guess it allows you so much freedom in the way you can write an episode.
You can do
it allows it to be so exciting,
right? Yeah.
You
can do binge watching, right? When it comes
to
Netflix.
So I think I watched that show and like I think I watched one episode one day, another episode the next day, and then I just finished it like on the third day. When I was looking into the difference between Japanese writing and like American writing, because screenwriting in Japanese movies sometimes seems very different. And I came across this thing called Kisho Tenketsu, and I don't know what that is in Chinese, but I sent you it in the list of questions. The kanji is I don't know how you'd say it in Chinese. It's kind of a 4-act structure.
Yeah, right? About that, right? Yeah. So basically, it's like initiation, elucidation, transition, and summarization. So basically,
okay.
So
you have to get 4-act structure, right? Used in kind of Asian,
just in dramatic writing, in every writing. Like my Chinese teacher taught me about that since I was really young.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember when I learned that idea. I was that young back then. So initiation, right? Which means you get started, right? So you get started somehow, right? So it's basically this idea. And Cheng, elucidation, which means explanation, right? But I would say that you just go with what you started, right?
Yeah.
You go with the started, like a guy meets a girl. Of course, next you need to talk about what they're gonna do, right? They meet each other, right? And then 转 means like they call it transition, or it basically means like you need to make your story take a turn, right? Take a good turn or a bad turn. Take a turn for the best or for the better or for the worst. I don't know. It depends on what you're writing, right? And the 和, which means finally you need to end the story. It gives us a good ending or a bad ending, I'm not sure, or an ending which leads to the next episode, I'm not sure of. But so that's the idea, which is very similar to the, I think it's very similar to the idea of the 3-act plays, right? Something like that.
Yeah. You think it's similar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we use that, but I think in Taiwan, when it comes to dramatic writing or script writing, we just learn everything from the Western world, from the Hollywood.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. So I don't think we use that idea, the 起承转合, anymore, because we still have so many similarities. And now we're learning a lot from Korean movies or TV dramas as well. Yes.
What can you learn from Korean dramas?
You know what? That's very interesting because I'm not. This is my own opinion. Okay. I think Koreans learn everything from Hollywood. They just localize Hollywood movies in a very Korean way.
Yeah.
Yes, seriously, right? They learn everything from Hollywood, and
Mm.
I think they did a wonderful job. But for us, I think recently it's quite popular in Taiwan. We got copyrights from Korea, so we adapt famous or good Korean movies or TV dramas into Taiwanese versions. We localize Korean TV shows and TV dramas or Korean movies.
Well, so you
And
refilm it?
yeah, and that was a blockbuster actually. That was a hit. Yeah. So now more and more production companies are buying copyrights from Korea to localize the stories.
So I find it weird when, like, people always kind of judge Hollywood when they remake like Asian
The
movies
remakes,
and stuff like that. Yeah. Especially like
You don't
anime
like the
remakes.
remakes?
Everyone hates them. Yeah, everyone hates them. Because
But
it's
not in
like,
time.
why
No,
can't
not
you?
in time.
People think, why can't you watch the original? Like, do you hate foreign culture or something? Like, there's kind of a little bit of judgment about kind of remaking foreign movies.
I think Korean are remaking the Paper House. No, the Paper House. Paper House? It's a Spanish one. Is a Paper House or something? Yeah. And people are looking forward to it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And I think it's interesting. Japanese remade Taiwanese TV dramas, and Koreans remade Japanese TV dramas, and we as well remade Korean or Japanese TV dramas. So like
everyone's stealing from each other.
Not stealing, because we're buying copyrights right now.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, right? I think it's different culture.
Yeah.
People want to see different versions, like how it's gonna work, So that's it. So that's I think that's a cultural difference. We like remakes. If it's gonna be good, we're so happy about it. Yeah.
I started learning Japanese because I wanted to understand. I thought, because of this Shotenketsu, this 4-act structure, maybe Japanese people and Japanese writers think in a very different way to Western people. And I thought, if I could learn to think in this way, then I don't know, I could think, maybe I could write more interesting or different stories. But it sounds like you think that it's very similar to the 3-act structure, and it's just kind of a different way of describing the same thing.
But you can still learn a lot, because, well, let's just compare Japanese soap operas with, Korean soap operas.
Yeah.
They're very different, actually. The techniques are the same, but the endings or how the actors or the lines are very, very different. For example, I think Japanese are very shy. So compared to Koreans, Japanese, even in movies or in TV dramas, characters don't really express their love. They don't shout out loud for what they want. But compared to Koreans, I think Koreans are more passionate.
Yeah,
they can love you deeply. They can also hate you deeply, right? That's the reason why I think Korean TVs or movies turn to be violent and bleak somehow. Don't you think so? Yeah. So even though we share the same techniques, but in accordance with the different national personalities, right? So we create very, very different art pieces, and we create very different works in terms of TV or movies. So that's how I think they're still very different from one another, I suppose. Japanese TV shows and Korean TV shows.
Yeah, I think probably a lot of the reason people are interested in these mediums is maybe it's not the way it's maybe it's more the more cultural aspects coming through and enjoying these different aspects of different cultures.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's like, but you know, I have this assumption that I don't think. Well, I don't get, you know, backlash by saying so. But I really think that Koreans may not be able to create very legendary animations as Japanese do. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
that's my, yeah. Don't you feel this? Don't you have this kind of idea that I won't, because they're better at movies and TV shows, not animations.
I think so.
that
I think Japan has a very kind of very they love animation, and they love Western animation as well in Japan, but they love animation. They love making it. As you know, kids love Ghibli movies, and like kids in the UK and in America, I assume they don't love Ghibli movies. I think even like I think it's part of the cultural identity of Japan, probably animation. And I think Korea probably, I don't know so much about Korean culture, but they probably look more towards American culture. They're probably more influenced by American culture than Japan,
yes,
maybe.
yes.
I don't know. It's like you're saying, like the techniques are the same. Like if you look at British versus American movies, the content is the structure and the like, you know, three act structure and hero's journey and all that stuff. And even the cinematography and the filmmaking techniques are very often, you know, exactly the same, but it's just that the different cultural aspects coming through, like the way the characters think and the attitudes and the way people talk.
Yeah.
So it just gives it a slightly different flavor, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's very interesting to see the remix, you know, created by different countries. So I think people are interested in that as well.
Back to cultural stuff, I guess. So Taiwan is one of the more socially progressive countries in Asia.
Yes.
But the culture of like parenting, I guess, and the relationships people have with their parents is very traditional.
Yes.
I think Confucianism is still has a big influence in Taiwan.
Yes, I'm afraid. Yes, I'm afraid.
My question is, I guess, is there a big difference between like people of our generation and our parents, and is there any? Do people talk about that? Is that a cultural debate, or is there any tension between, you know, our generation and parents' generation?
Yeah, of course. It's always debate. Maybe it's kind of similar to the idea of Brexit, right? I think for the older generation, they love the idea of Brexit. Is that true? But for the younger generation,
not necessarily. I think it's more cities versus. There's a lot of aspects to it, but probably more. It is one aspect to it. Probably more older people wanted to leave, but it's not like a clear divide between like old people wanted to leave and young people wanted to remain. Yeah, but it's definitely a factor. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you gave me a very big question, but generally speaking, I think in Taiwan, I think, you know, parents do expect their kids to be doctors, or engineers, or accountants, you know. So that's kind of scary, because individualism, I think we need more individualism in this country, but parents, especially older generations, they still want us to make more money. Okay, so this is where the clash starts, you know. And because we really believe getting good grades means everything. That's the reason why I think a lot of students are suffering, because they just don't want to spend most of the time studying or memorizing vocabulary when it comes to learning English, unfortunately. So I, as a school teacher, I feel bad for them still, because but that's how I have gone through back then, so I really can understand them. But I still get the, pressure from their parents. So I really need to ask them to get better grades, to score high. So this is the thing. Yeah. I think it's quite similar. I think it's the same thing in Japan or in Korea, I suppose.
Yeah.
Even in China, it's the same thing. So that's the reason why some people think, Asians tend to have less creativity. I think we're creative, we just don't have that many outlets to be creative.
Yeah. Do you think the impulse to push your children towards like jobs that will get more money, do you think that's because like you're worried about their future, or do you think it was more of a status thing or some combination? Like you want to have high status children, or are you worried that like they won't be able to take care of themselves? Because Taiwan has had a rough history, and I know it's a very developed nation now. It's it's not like a third world country or anything like that. But historically, I think there has been more like poverty in Taiwan. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe the parents all share the memories of being insufficient, being poor.
Yeah.
So of course they want their children to make more money.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I just believe that thanks to Confucius, like studying or good at studying is the most important thing for students. We probably historically we've been respecting people who knew how to study, so that reflects our mentality. But at the same time, I think worry about the future. I think as a Taiwanese or as well, that's interesting because well, let me make a joke, okay? We have some Aboriginals living in Taiwan, of course, but most of the Taiwanese are descendants of immigrants, and especially losers or refugees, because they couldn't find jobs in China. 200. They couldn't find job in China and 200 or 300 years ago, so decided to come to Taiwan. And my grandparents were basically refugees, because after Chairman Mao took over China, my grandparents fled to Taiwan. Okay. So our ancestors were basically, refugees or illegal immigrants or losers.
I've heard the same thing said about white people going to teach English in Asia. It's like, can you get a job? Which was me.
No, come on, I'm joking. So of course, because of that, that's the reason why we tend to be very worried about not having enough money. And I think the same goes to Chinese, right? Because although they're communists and we have democracy, but still, because they used to be very poor. They just had this, economic, miracle, for the past 2 decades, right? So that's the reason why they want to make more money. So things are even crazier. I think you would definitely find a very good job as an English teacher in China as well.
Yeah, it pays very well apparently. I didn't do it in China, but
So I mean, when I was working as a scriptwriter, think my parents were really worried.
Really?
They were, of course, because I didn't. I think up until now or in recent years, people started to value the importance of script writers or playwrights, right? Because they're but back then they paid more attention to producers, directors, and actors. They didn't care, or we didn't care that much about script writers back then. But until recently, because thanks to Netflix and we have, and we finally learned something from either Koreans, Americans, British, or Japanese when it comes to script writing, right? So we've been creating so many good works, right? So now people started to value the importance of script writing, right? So back then the money was not very good, and the job was not stable as a script writer, because you always doing I'm not sure about the ecology of Britain when it comes to TV industry, but in Taiwan, not so many vacancies are about in-house writers. We are always like freelance script writers, case by case, right? What about in UK? You've got some job as in-house script writers?
Yeah, I think if you write for the BBC, you'll get like, if you write for a drama or something, you'll get a few episodes on that. I don't know. I haven't really worked in the UK. The only screenwriting I've done is online, like for a French company, and that was a YouTube animation.
Yeah. So my parents were really worried about me, and I think in our culture, parents feel that they've got the obligation to support their children, even if they're adults, financially. So of course they're worried that if I don't make that much money.
Okay. In Japan, I think being a teacher is quite prestigious. Like it comes with like some respect. And I thought, I used to when I was in Japan, I'd tell people people ask me what I do, and I'd be really like excited to tell them I'm a screenwriter, because it's like it sounds so like cool or glamorous or something like that, like I'm a creative artist or something like that. It's how it sounds. The reality wasn't exactly like that. But if I told people I was an English teacher, I think I don't know. It's hard to tell with Japanese people because they're so polite and they want to make you happy anyway. But I think, I don't know, being a teacher has more prestige than being a screenwriter, maybe.
Is it prestigious to be a scriptwriter in the UK?
I think it sounds pretty cool. Like, people imagine it's a lot of money. Like, it's like, if you're working in Hollywood, it's money, right?
No, not exactly. I think if it's a glamorous job, I think it's a very hard job, and it doesn't take creativity or talents. It also takes disciplines, right? Because you really have to you have to keep you're like a powerhouse of writing lines and words and stories. It's something so it's very difficult. I think creativity is never enough to be a writer. No, I don't think so.
No, definitely not. I've been writing a novel for like 2 years now, and I still haven't pushed myself to finish it. When I was writing, I wrote like hundreds of scripts for a YouTube show because I had deadlines and they were paying me. But like, if you're writing your own project, it's like you definitely have to have discipline. Yeah.
I think it's more about hard work than creativity. Of course, you need to have some good ideas, right?
Well, creativity is like a minimum requirement, but it's not guaranteed success.
Minimum requirement, I like.
Yeah, you have to have some talent, I think, to be able to write. But then,
definitely.
Even if you've got that, you still have to be disciplined. And I'd say that's probably the difference between people who are successful or not and people who aren't successful.
Yeah, I think being a script writer, it's very different from being an artist, right?
Yeah.
You know, you cannot be romantic all the time. It's like, oh, it's we need to get more audience, we need to make more money, we need more sponsorship. So it's all about that sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of business or corporate kind of mentality in there as well. Yeah.
But recently, I believe that what matters is that you need to convey good messages. Just like you cannot just, you know, just give some bad ideas for life. Like, of course, I mean, let me give you a very bad example. Like, you cannot encourage people to commit suicide, something like that. You have to have some values, right? You want to emphasize. So I think this is very important, and this is quite critical to be a writer. You really need to voice yourself. You want to be heard. Interestingly, I haven't touched playwriting or script writing for, no, I still do some playwriting, but not so much script writing anymore, because I honestly don't feel the need to be heard. I think it's like I don't have some fabulous ideas which need to be shared with other people. So, well, if you really, I mean, for those who are watching your show or are listening to your podcast, you better have something you really want to share with the rest of the world. And I hope the message is really good, and that can make you a very good scriptwriter. That's my personal idea. So, yeah, I hope I'm not too outspoken that way.
No. I think that's the most important thing for a writer, is they actually have to have something to say.
Yeah.
And to do that, you probably have to read, and you have to kind of open yourself up to lots of experiences. I'd probably say reading is the best, the fastest way to do that, or maybe listening to podcasts or interesting people speaking and things like that. But I don't know. If you have nothing to say, then I mean, your writing can be entertaining, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think a lot of the great writers have unique ideas or points of view about things.
Yeah, and it's very stressful to be a script writer. So, well, but it's an interesting job. But I have to say, I didn't miss the days I didn't miss the time I was a script writer, because I didn't get enough sleep. I was very sleep deprived. I couldn't sleep well. It was really hard. Yeah.
So you don't miss anything about it? Are you getting what you got out of screenwriting somewhere else? Like you said, like you feel like you don't need to be heard anymore. Like is that what was doing it for you?
No, it's more like, I think I don't have the story. You know what I'm saying? I don't have the greatest idea anymore, I suppose. I think somehow the inspiration just comes to you, right? It's not something you can go after. And since I'm not inspired, and I don't feel like writing that much. But it doesn't mean I hate writing. No, I enjoy writing, of course, but I'm just not that inspired. And I think maybe in 2 years I'll be inspired. I'll pick up writing again, I suppose. But for some people, I don't think they should torture themselves with the idea that, oh, I really have to work on it. I've got to be a regular writer, or I have to write regularly every day from 3 to 5 in the afternoon. I don't think that works for me. I think sometimes the good ideas just come to you, but of course you need to work really hard to get good ideas, right? Some people watch a lot of movies. Oh my goodness, they're kind of addicted to YouTube and the Netflix. But somehow I think maybe I'm waiting for the next, good ideas. to come to me, I suppose. Yeah, but I enjoy the process of writing when I really feel connected with the characters. Yeah, or like I really feel like they are talking in my head. Hope I don't sound very schizophrenic, but that really happened, you know. Yeah, but I think I don't know when the inspiration will come, but they are really welcome.
Yeah, I always find, I don't know, the best stories I write or the best ideas I have just come from like a random. I don't know. I used to do a podcast about just like film reviews, and we used to have this thing called Made Up Movies, where we'd have like a title of a film, and we'd have a competition to see who could come up with the best idea. And like some of my favorite ideas that I have just come from a title. I think if you give yourself some limitations and kind of try and make it fun, I think that's a good way of creativity. But when you take it very seriously, it's like, okay, I'm going to write this important thing and I'm going to do this. Like, I don't know, it can be stifling, I guess. Like, writing is a weird thing. It's not like painting. It's not like music. It's
yeah.
I was watching Harry Potter, the last Harry Potter film last night, and there was a really cool quote from it. I think Dumbledore or something said like, words are like the most magical thing, and like I don't know, I thought that was such a cool thing. Like, 'cause in Harry Potter they speak words and that makes spells and it makes magic appear, but like if you think about like the spoken or the written word, just is it's such an amazing thing. You can put ideas into other people's heads just by reading a thing, and like I don't know, I think that's a really wonderful thing about writing. But I do struggle with discipline, and like right now I'm doing writing work online, but it's not really creative. And,
yeah,
it's a wonderful thing to do, even if you're not like a professional. Like, I don't know. I always think like if you're a writer and you're not putting stuff out, and like if you're not Stephen King or J.K. Rowling, then what's the point? But if you enjoy it, and why not?
Yeah, sometimes if you don't have a purpose, maybe you can create better works, I suppose. Like, I'm not gonna be a billionaire by selling this script. I think it's just wonderful to be a happy writer. Yeah, it's such a luxury to be a happy writer. So yeah, I hope all the best wishes for those who want to be script writers in the future. I think thanks to Netflix, I think we get to explore more stories, not just in English, but in every different language, in every different culture. I think this is something really good about Netflix or online streaming platform. Yeah.
And YouTube, like YouTube is really, I don't know if the word is democratized, but it's really opened up like storytelling for anyone who wants to do it. Like, there's such creative people online. Like, there's this guy, internet historian, who makes documentaries, but like he does really kind of obscure subjects and like really funny animations along with it. And like I'm for the last 2 years I've kind of had problems with trying to choose one discipline. Like, I like writing, I like making music, I want to have all these creative projects. And I recently emailed this podcast for some advice, and they said, like, if you want to be successful and you're not successful right now, you should probably just choose one thing. And I'm thinking, like, I want to focus on YouTube because I can still be a writer. Like, if you make YouTube videos, you have to write them, unless you're just doing something like this where we're talking, or you're a kind of daily kind of vlogger talking to the camera, that kind of thing. But like, YouTube has especially in the field of documentary, like there's so many great people nowadays making films, like basically documentary films about film criticism or cultural things. And like, I don't know, it's probably like the best time to be a writer is now.
Yeah. So are we done with all the questions, Joe?
I think so. Yeah. Should we finish?
Yeah, maybe we should finish. And nice talking to you.
Yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you so much.
I
It's
hope
so nice to
like
speak to another screenwriter about the industry and technical
yeah.
stuff, and I love talking
Mhm.
about cultural stuff as well. It's been really fun for me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I really hope that your audience or your listeners can just start to watch some of the soap operas or TV dramas created by Taiwanese. You might like it, right?
Anything you'd recommend?
Light the Night. I think it's
Light the
about
Night.
yeah, Light the Night. I think it's on Netflix. It's quite interesting.
Okay.
It's in the set is in the 80s. It's about like Japan, we have those hostess, right? Bar hostess, story of those bar madams and the hostess ladies. Of course, we've got struggles, and murders, of course, murder, and backstabbing and gold digging. So it's kind of interesting. I think it's entertaining.
So like crime drama, something like that.
Yeah, and some romance, of course, some betrayals, very cheesy. But you know what? The reason why I like it is like it kind of has everything. So it's quite entertaining. And they've got 2 seasons. And the season 2, they've got a transvestite. So that's nice. So if you want to know one thing or two about Taiwanese TV drama, I think that's a good start. Yeah.
Light the Night, it's called? Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Yeah. Cool. I hope you enjoyed
I'll try
the
it
show.
out.
Yeah, sure. So I've got to say goodbye to Joe, and I hope you do more and more wonderful podcasts, okay?